Last time we looked at a repaint of a villain masquerading as a hero with nothing new but some accessories, and today we're doing it again. Only difference is that this one's an official release, but does that make it better or a half-hearted effort? Stick around and find out. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Starting off with the packaging, and we have our DC Multiverse window box. Down here we see this is Two-Face TM as Batman TM, and on the side we see this is specifically from Batman Reborn. For those using apps like Brickseek, here's the UPC. Speaking of apps, one thing I haven't mentioned is the app on the side. They recently added this QR code for DC Universe Infinite, but what really impresses me is that they take the time to customize the graphic for each box. On that subject, the art for this one comes from Batman 691. I actually think it might have been a mistake to use this cover. Between the opposite colored legs, the gold belt buckle, and the jaggedy cape, it doesn't exactly match the figure. Plot twist, the cover doesn't exactly match the comic either. In my humble opinion, they should have used this art. That's not to say McFarlane didn't drop the ball in some areas, but that's a conversation for next category. And nitpicks aside, for packaging, I'm giving Two-Face as Batman 1 whole point. Moving on to presentation, and to the tips of his ears, Bat Harvey comes to 7.5 inches. This figure is an almost complete reuse of Hush Batman. The only new part are the head and the hands. In fact, the left one has a coin in it. The thing of it is, when you look at the artwork, there are details missing. There should be a bunch of spikes sticking out of this arm, and the gauntlet fin should actually go all the way up this arm. Not only that, but the paint running down the middle of the body is a bit fuzzy. Just look at the belt buckle. There's also an accidental glob of paint right here giving me George Clooney bat nipple vibes. And ain't nobody wants that. Another thing that's very clear in the comic is that the cape is actually attached to a giant ring going around the shoulders, so while the broad strokes are there, it's not exactly comic accurate. All that being said, I cannot speak highly enough of this head. I love the detail in the skin, and the extra blue highlighting gives a great job of adding depth to all the scars on the mask. This does, however, lead me to the other reason why I'm a bit conflicted on this figure. I don't actually like this design. Two-Face might just be my favorite Batman villain of all time, so if you asked me to imagine what I thought Two-Face would look like if he did his own version of Batman, I'm gonna picture something a lot more creative than this. Even the Funko Pop is cooler looking, and do you have any idea what it takes to make me compliment a Funko Pop? It also doesn't help that he looks more like Harvey dressed as Harley dressed as Batman. I know those were his colors at the time in the comic, but I didn't like them then either. Additionally, the argument could be made that it's supposed to be red and dark blue, and to McFarlane's credit, they did put a little bit of blue in there, but only on the torso and the side of the face, making even that feel like a half measure. For presentation, I'm giving Two-Face as Batman half a point. Moving on to posability, and since this is basically just Hush Batman, we know what to expect. The head's on a ball joint at the base of the skull. Because of that, we're going to run into some trouble looking up. He does get a little bit though, this far down, really great tilt, and all the way around. Swivel hinge arms raise a little bit over 90 degrees. Since it's not glued in place by the paint, the rotator cuff is a bit more functional. Can't really say the same for the side. No trouble with the bicep swivel though. He's got a great double joint elbow with a really deep bend, and McFarlane wrist balls that can swivel and hinge. Moving to the middle, and Dent has a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist. He can arch back this far, which is fine, but alas, Harvey can't hunch forward whatsoever. He does, however, get a little bit of tilt and twist. Below the utility belt, and he has McFarlane style hips. They can kick pretty high and do a perfect split. Pretty decent twist, all things considered. Of course, we got a double knee, toe articulation, and ankles that can swivel, hinge, and pivot. There are some limitations, but they're mainly emblematic of the line as a whole and not specific to this figure. For posability, I'm giving Two-Face 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, and of course Harvey has a trading card and figure stand. Pause here if you want to read it. Spoiler alert, it's pretty much a basic overview of Two-Face, which is a shame because it would have been really cool if they went into the backstory of this specific version of him. More importantly, he comes with 4 extra hands, and this has me a bit conflicted. One pair is of accessory holding hands, and then there's an extra grabby black glove and an extra red fist. My frustration is that these are all new hands hands made for this body. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to have them, but I would have much rather had them for Hush Batman. As is, his hands don't even match, and the only right-handed fist has the kryptonite ring. Again, I'm not ungrateful, I just don't understand why this one-off version of Two-Face needs 6 hands when Batman himself only gets 4. But playability is more than just getting handsy with your Batman figures. It's also about how well your figures play with others. For some of the previous uses of this body, and here we have Batman Year 2, Batman from 3 Jokers, and the blue and gray version of Hush. For a small selection of other Cape Crusaders, and here we have Arkham Knight, the spindly-legged Arkham City, the ever-popular Page Punchers, the ever-so-short DC Rebirth, and the all-new Nightfall. That said, this version of Two-Face goes with the Dick Grayson Batman, but since we haven't gotten him, here's the DC Multiverse Build-A-Batmobile version, as well as the recently released Titans Way version made on the John Kent body. I really hope we get a Dick Grayson-era Batman soon, and the new Nightfall figure would be a great one to build it off of. All it would need is a head with shorter ears, a new logo, a new belt, new gloves, and a darker blue and gray color scheme. It would also be a great opportunity to make a new Damian that scales a bit better. For a small selection of my Two-Face collection, and here we have the Guardians of Gotham 5-pack from DC Universe Classics, and this black and gray one which I seem to remember was either released under the 2003 Batman series or under DC Superheroes. For another black and gray version, and here's Arkham City by Mattel, how much cooler would the Two-Face Batman have been if they modeled it off of this? That said, for our only other DC Multiverse dent, and here we have Aaron Eckhart from The Dark Knight, but for another McFarlane, and here we have Batman 66. This would have been another cool concept with him being all black on one side and then orange and purple on the other. For some of the other rogues that Two-Face would have had to face as Batman, and here's someone whose buffoonery he could not sanction. Here we have the Arkham City version of Catwoman, Arkham City Penguin, and Arkham City Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, I'd like to see Harvey Dent take on the Demon's Head. Speaking of villains who would have been out of Harvey Dent's league, and here we have the Joker. This one's from Arkham Asylum. Here's Mortal Kombat 11, the Clown version from 3 Jokers, and Infinite Frontier. For another Fiend with a bifurcated face, and here we have Deathstroke, and since this is the Hush Batman body, it seems only fitting to bring out Hush himself. But for another sinister Batman substitute, and here we have Azrael. For a roll-to-scale comparison, here's Harvey with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. Hey there, Harvey. Seems to me you and I have something in common.
Oh yeah? What's that?
We're both half the man we used to be. Disappointing as it may be that we don't currently have a Dick Grayson Batman for this Harvey Dent to play with, I'm sure we'll get one soon enough. But with 6 interchangeable hands, honestly, how can I complain? For playability, Two-Face's Batman gets 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. The pre-orders for this Two-Face are starting to trickle out, but he retails for $19.99. As someone who missed out on the original DC Direct version, I'm very grateful for an affordable option of this character, and I also understand why McFarlane would use Hush as the base body. And as long as you don't mind that there are some inaccuracies to the comic, it's fine. But knowing that this is probably the last time we're ever going to see a figure based on this does disappoint me a bit, and the sloppy paint makes me take half a step back. For price, I'm giving this Harvey half a point for a grand total of 4 out of 5. Is this Two-Face a must-have for you, or are you going to wait till he's half off? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.